If an athlete only had 20 minutes twice a week, what would you prioritize?
So that's an interesting thought project. And I think in some ways a lot can be done in 2 sessions of 20 minutes per week. And in some senses, like this is unrealistic for like a productive training week. But it gets us into this idea of thinking about being more disciplined about how we spend our time. And we can think about the disciplined pursuit of less as a very effective way to continue to progress and develop. And so first off, before context matters, and the way you would spend 20 minutes twice a week with one person at 9 years old who's a guy might be different than the way you spend 20 minutes twice a week with a girl who's 13 years old. And that context matters, and that everyone, even in the schematics of doing group training with people or team training with people, there's an idea that differentiation is possible across the board, so that each individual is getting kind of more of the context that is appropriate for them. So in this question, like, context matters. Like you, right, for 20 minutes twice a week, like what you're doing is amazing, because what you're doing is you're going out in the morning and you're sprinting a hill near our house, about 50 yards up the hill, which is, I'd say 6 degrees of a grade. You're doing push-ups, most days, and for a couple sets, and seeing how many push-ups you can do. You're trying to do pull-ups almost every day. Basically getting curious and interested in training, and if all you did was twice a week, 20 minutes, and you were just curious about training and you were doing those things you were curious about, like, huge value there. So if I was going to look at like a high school athlete in general, I'd have to, and I also want to say I'm taking out warm-ups. So like effectively a 20-minute session, especially as you get older, like part of that is a good 10 to 15 minute, you're warming up, you're getting the blood flowing, you're getting your body temperature risen, you're getting a sweat going. Like these are all very effective ways to get ready for training, to keep yourself in injury prevention state and to heighten your performance. Like we need to do it, especially as we get older. To me, it's super important to do like RPR as part of that, and you can do all that in 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm not gonna, for this thought project, I'm not including like getting ready to go. I'm not including then after that a specific warm up, which would be like if you're gonna bench press that day, like we should on ramp our bench press sets. It's like getting on the freeway, right? Like you start at 5, you go to 15, then you're at 30. Pretty soon you're at 75 or whatever on the freeway, on the highway. So specific warm-up is that. You have your general warm-up, you have your specific warm-up. I'm not including any of that in this thought project. This thought project is like, once you're going, setup is ready. Like I'm not including you're going, and this is what you have 20 minutes. So once you're in there and you have those 20 minutes and you're firing, you're feeling fresh, you're feeling psychologically amped, you can sweat going, you're ready to perform. The way I would take this for like a high school athlete, where my head goes, would be like an early in the week session, your first session of 20 minutes. We're gonna do like 3 or 4 sets of broad jumps with like 2 minutes in between. Broad jumps is max effort jumping out as far as you can, from 2 feet. So you're standing there and you get ready and you leap out as far as you can. And you do like 3 or 4 broad jumps, you rest 2 minutes, you do 3 or 4 again, you're doing sets of broad jumps. Or we're going to the hill and we're doing hill sprints. Hill sprints are super easy, like low hanging fruit, like especially in this area where we live, like there's lots of hills that are between 2 degrees and 6 degrees, or 2 degrees and 7 degree grade. You can get an app. I have an app on my phone. You can probably search like, what app can I use to like measure the grade of hills? And you're kind of in that range. It's great for acceleration training. In other words, training yourself to get started and create power right now from nothing. And so power is moving load fast. We want that as an athlete. So yeah, like my bucket of training things anyway, if I was gonna kind of put like this atmospheric ring around everything, it's like we got to jump as far as we can when we're fresh. We got to jump as high as we can when we're feeling good. We got to repeat jump. We got to be bouncy and practice bouncy type stuff. Like so, We got to do like a 4 jump test on the jump mat, see how our reactive strength is, and we got to do drop jumps, and we got to practice producing tons of force and fast. And then we need to lift heavy. And we need to sprint. This might be the number one thing, as fast as we can in a straight line for a short distance. And to me, this includes hill sprinting. So we gotta locomote in a powerful, expressive, explosive way. And we gotta do this once or twice a week. This is precious material. It is something we don't have to do a lot of, but it's the right type of low volume training, high impact, high output, that's gonna have this crazy result on what we can do as an athlete, and these crazy adaptations to push our neural ceiling higher and higher, and to get us also closer to the height of our neural ceiling. If you have 20 minutes twice a week, I think you can do that. So I think of things like, we're going to be on the hill early in the week. We're going to do like 4 sets of hill sprints. Kind of crazy. You only have 20 minutes. How would you structure it? Like, what would you put in there in the high value department where we're getting high bang for our buck stuff in only 20 minutes? Then I already have it set up. I'm doing like something where I'm lifting something heavy. For a couple reps that's near my max, close to my 1 rep max. It's super hard. It's super taxing on my body. I still have great form though. The technique is a must. And I'm doing like a sumo deadlift, which is easier to teach, I think, than a traditional deadlift. It's also more hip and quad based, I think. And I'm doing like a sumo deadlift for 2 to 4 reps, super hard. And I'm contrasting this with something like a max effort approach jump, or a repeat jump test, 4 jumps on repeat to test my reactive strength. Testing is training, and training is testing. I'm training it, but I'm also testing it. So I'm doing a set of sumo deadlifts, and I'm doing a set of repeat jumps, or sumo deadlifts and an approach jump, or I'm doing like a trap bar deadlift for 2 or 3 reps. And then I'm contrasting that with something very fast in terms of producing force. And then there's my 20 minutes. This is all hitting on the lift heavy, run fast in a straight line for a short distance, as fast as you can. Bounce or jump as far as you can, or jump as high as you can. This is checking all those boxes. And remember, you only have 20 minutes. So then later in the week, I have another 20-minute session. It might be a very similar thing. I might do like 3 or 4 30-yard sprints. So that's as fast as you can in a straight line for a short distance. Rest 3 minutes, do another one. Okay, shoot 3 sets of that, choose up 10 minutes with the rest. And the rest is really important, because I don't want to practice being slow. I want to practice my fast ones, because that's what's going to push adaptations. That's what's going to actually make me a better athlete once I recover and build back stronger through all those physiological hormonal mechanisms. So, one way I like to think of this is like, so I'm jumping as high as I can when I'm fresh. I'm resting. I'm jumping as high as I can again. Why am I going to get something out of that? Well, think of a high jumper. They try to jump over that bar as hard and as high as they can. And then they fully rest. They do it again. And their training might consist of 5 of those or something like that. They're not jumping 50 times at 80%. Because if they jump 50 times at 80%, that's not what I want to practice. I don't want to practice being really good at something that's submaximal. That's not going to push the ceiling of what I'm capable of doing higher. And it's not going to get me closer to reaching my potentiality as far as my ceiling goes. So think about if I'm forging steel. My impression on forging steel is you don't heat metal at like something low temperature for many, 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 many hours. No, you heat it white hot. You make it as hot as freaking possible, and then you're working with it, and then you cool it. And it's a process that happens super intense, and then you recover it, and you go through that process. You rather rub a knife to make it super, super, super sharp and incredibly cut worthy. Would you rub it against a rock all day, or would you sharpen it? Would you sharpen it with a knife sharpener for a few minutes of really focused and intense work? Well, the answer, I think, should be obvious. You don't want to make it a dull knife. You want to make it a super sharp knife. We only have so much time in this thought project as we only have so much time in life, right? And so, stud, the best thing to do is to think, and this thought project applies with however much time we have to spend in training each week, is like, what is the biggest bang for our buck material? Why are we doing it? What do we want to get out of it? And okay, let's spend our time doing those things. Less is more. If it's the better kind of things that we're doing versus just doing a bunch of fluff. And then let's spend the rest of our time recovering, reading, growing our mind, like relationships and like all these other things, right? Because we only have so much time in life. What do we want to spend our time doing? Well, we can get great value out of doing the right kind of stuff. And again, this is context. Then we do that. Back to the second session of the week. It's like sprints, 3 sprints, fast as you can in a straight line for a short distance. And then I'm lifting something heavy. Now, your brain can go anywhere on this. It could be, like I said before, a sumo deadlift or a trap bar deadlift. It could be a back squat or a squat with an SSB bar. But we're lifting heavy. It's a heavy squat for a few reps, close to our 1 rep max. And there's other kinds of things we can do with that and explore, which is a different conversation. And then I'm probably contrasting it again, 15 seconds or 20 seconds after my lifting something heavy set. I'm recovering my breath, and then I'm jumping as hard and as high as I can for a couple reps. And then I'm resting 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'm doing that again. And then guess what? I get 3 of those contrast sets in, and there's my 20 minutes. So again, none of this includes like warming up and getting ready and getting into a place where you're ready to perform. Not including that for this 20 minutes twice a week. Great question. I think you could also go the route of like, we kind of touched on this in the beginning, like do what you want to explore. And this is again, bang for our buck. What you think is valuable and you want to explore and you're curious, spend your 20 minutes doing that. It depends on the person. That's where I would go with it, generally speaking, for like the high school athlete. We can actually get a lot done into 20-minute or to 40-minute sessions a week. Showtime. It's about that 20 minutes of showtime, which actually, because of what we said with all the rest periods, so that you can actually be high output with your sets, with your behaviors, that the amount of actual work that's being done in those 2 20-minute sessions in this thought project is like, 5 seconds times 3, and then 5 seconds or 10 seconds times 3. It's like 30 plus 50. It's like 45 seconds to a minute of actual work, but it's the right type of work, the high output work, the stuff that's going to drive those responses and the stimulus that's going to drive those adaptations. And guess what? If you're used to doing stuff like that, I think for as long as possible, and it's going to change what this looks like as you get older, but like, how good is your life going to be, and how much can you transfer to like, then you can hike here and jump over this creek there and sprint down the street to go embrace your buddy there and climb this fence because you need to, because you're trying to get up to this cool spot that you can look up. Oh, and then you get to that roof, and then you can have a picnic on the roof and look out at the stars. And there's just so much there as well. Yeah, that's where I go with it.